Oh hey Guardian, welcome to a masterclass on shaders in Destiny 2. Shaders in Destiny 2 are a little different than they were in Destiny 1. Back in Destiny 1, you'd just pick one shader and it would cover your entire armor. But in Destiny 2, we have a lot more flexibility. We can do a shader on each piece of armor, each piece of equipment, and your ship. When you're first starting out, I think using shaders in the same way as Destiny 1 worked is completely fine. I think a lot of good sets use one shader, and it's a good way to focus on getting your silhouettes and theming of the armor down to an art. But if you're wanting to improve beyond good armor sets to really great armor sets, I think you need to start practicing using multiple shaders to get more unique and contrasting looks for your armor. I think most Guardians struggle with this mainly due to the icon system in Destiny 2. The icon shows 4 colors, but oftentimes 1 or even sometimes 2 of those colors don't show up at all when used on armor. So why is that? Well, to really explain it, we need to talk about how a shader works and applies to different armor and equipment. If you've ever played Anthem had a system where you could color your armor based on different zones on it. There were 3 hard zones and 3 soft zones. In Anthem, you could pick texture and the exact color you would want. In Destiny 2, it's a similar concept, but instead of picking individual colors and individual textures, we kind of have presets in the form of shaders. Shaders work on armor based on the zones that the armor contains. The max number of zones on every armor set is 6. You have 4 soft zones and 2 hard zones. As an example, I have a hunter here that's using the Rivalry Stoic shader on every piece of gear. If you look at the legs, you can actually see 3 of the soft zones already. You have that tan in the thigh, you have the blue wraps, and you have the red boot. Just quickly glancing at this, you may say, okay, I see red forearm and I see white on the boot as well, but those are actually the 2 hard zones, and they shader completely independent of those 3 soft zones. The 4th soft zone can be seen in the cloak here. The top of that cloak has a completely different color of paper, and although you may think it's just a lighter version of the shader zone 1, which is the tan, it's actually unique and can shade completely differently than that tan in other shaders. So that's definitive proof that there's 4 soft zones. Through looking at different Titan sets, which are mostly metal, through different Warlock sets and different Hunter sets with different shaders, I'd never found more than 2 hard zones. So it seems we have 6 total zones. The wide variety of soft zones and the lack of hard zones I think is mainly why, me personally, I have a trouble making unique and different sets on Titan. Titan, you'll mainly have maybe 1 or 2 soft zones and your 2 hard zones, which really suppresses diversity of a shader when using it. But you may see the SMG in the hand there of this hunter. It's also got the Rivalry Stoic shader on it, and right off the bat I can see a yellow that's not found at all in this armor set, and a neon red that's also not found in this armor set. This is what makes me believe that guns, ghosts, and sparrows have a different hierarchy of shader colors than armor does. Since a gun is all hard parts, you may say maybe that's just your hard zones past 2, 3, 4, 5, but the white and the dark red are such minor features on the gun here. It's hard for me to believe that, and I think it's easier for me to accept that the guns have a unique hierarchy. I have found that the guns actually have 6 different colors on them in some cases. The 6th color is pretty rare, but it can be found on a lot of grenade launchers that I've seen. But when I went over to make sure the other equipment matched, I found that sparrows and ghosts behave the same way that I would expect as the guns. And then I went to ships, and they seem to shade completely independent of the rules that I found within the ghost and the guns and the sparrows. So ships actually have their own hierarchy, which I found up to 5 colors, that they have some colors that are more rare on the armor, and the guns are more prominent. I think a great shader to show this difference is the Nougat Delight from the past Festival of the Lost. The orange nougaty color that's on the bottom portion of the shader icon cannot be found in the armor at all, but it's pretty prominent on ships and can be rarely seen on guns. I did find that glows are pretty universal. There's a few ships with glows and a few armor pieces with glows, and there's some guns with some very minor glows, and they all match colors on the same shaders, so glows will always match. A unique thing about the ships, however, they seem to have some sixth element to the shader that determines the texture and sometimes in rare instances the color of the glass of the cockpit. So why is this useful? I think if you're trying to elevate your fashion game, like I was talking about before, using multiple shaders can be pretty daunting. You know, if you put on this Rivalry Stoic shader on your hunter and you don't expect a lot of this blue, despite the blue being a soft secondary color, it's going to be harder for you to match with the shaders you've got going. So learning the lower tiers of your shaders and looking at the armor you're using, and you can kind of guess what type of material you're working with here, and knowing shaders really well like this just helps you quickly form these multi-shader sets that can be really unique looking and really take your fashion to another level. For example, I've got a hunter here I put together. If you quickly glance at this, you may say there's maybe 2 shaders involved. There's a lot of red and black, but the helmet has a pretty silver mask, so you might say 2, but it's actually 4 different shaders being utilized out of 5 armor sets. This is a good example of complexity looking like simplicity, which is a great way to make your sets really pop. My knowledge of these shaders helped me bounce between the ones that gave me a similar red and black theme, and also helped me place in some white components that helped me transition into that really unique helmet shader and really helped it tie all together. My dream is to collect all this information and have a complete database where someone could say, okay, I've got this piece of armor. I know this piece I want to be red, and I know that piece is shader zone soft 1, and maybe you could type like soft 1 red, and it would bring up any shader that did that color for you. It seems like a very daunting project, but it could be really cool to have. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you learned anything or have any more questions, let me know in the comments. And I hope this helps you start getting into multi-shader fashion. For more fashion videos, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.